finding out who we are, what we do, and who is AphA, because we are AphA. So yeah, the purpose of the meeting is to get to know each other a bit. If we know each other, that will make it easier for us all to get in touch with each other in the future, because we'll know who's interested in what, and we'll be able to put a face to a name, and you'll know what each other do. So I hope that after this meeting, you'll contact each other, perhaps develop your connection with each other a bit more. If perhaps you might need to seek some information from each other, or seek some help. Maybe you've done something that is particularly interesting that you know somebody else will be interested in, and you can drop them a line. So that's kind of what this is all about. To get it started, I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of go around the room, and each person will say a bit about themselves. We've got 12 people on the call, so we've probably got about 5 minutes each. I suggest, so I'll ask some questions, put you on the spot, and you tell us a bit about yourself. And if people want to dive in with questions, maybe somebody says piques someone's interest, if you could then put your hand up, and I'll invite you to ask a question or make your comment. If you're not speaking, just stay on mute and keep your cameras on. So yeah, let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on Ruth and make her go first, because she's the AphA London lead, and just go through a few questions, and then everyone else will see how easy it is, and hopefully this will kind of warm things up. If you've got questions for Ruth, please put your hand up. If she says something that's really interesting, or maybe you've had a similar experience, put your hand up, and I'll invite you to join the conversation. So Ruth, to begin with, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start off. Who do you work for? Tell us a bit about who you work for.
Thanks, Tom. So I don't know if I'll show you how it's done. I might show you how it's not done, and then people can improve on it from here. So I work for Imperial College Healthcare Trust. I've worked there for 10 years now. Time flies. Deputy CIO, which means that I head up the analytics function of the organisation. I'm responsible for the data strategy. I head up the clinical coding function as well. And I also get involved in various other digital projects as required. I used to head up the health records function as well. And at the moment, I'm the organisation lead on robotic process automation, which isn't strictly analytics, but it is a digital innovation project. So a thing that is going round and round in my mind at the moment is, am I a digital leader, or am I a data analytics leader first and foremost? And which of those do I want to be in the future? Because I think digital has broadened so much, and like medicine, it's becoming more and more specialized, isn't it? The consultants are becoming more and more expert in their subspecialties, and I think digital's going through the same evolution, in that it's becoming so broad and so wide. Can you really be a digital leader of everything? And actually, maybe it's about specializing a bit more and having analytics and data leaders. So that's something that I'm kind of toying with personally in terms of my career and where I go next and all of that. What do I grapple with on a day-to-day basis? Oh, if anyone has solved or managed to persuade their organization to heavily invest in data and analytics, I would be delighted to learn how you solved that one, because I spend a lot of my day handling the demand and capacity mismatch between the demand for our analytics and data resources and data set development and the capacity we actually have to to deliver that, and it's really ruthless prioritization, really, on a daily basis. That's what I can describe my job as, a lot of at the moment. But I'm really looking forward to hearing what other people do. Imperial's in acute trust. We were wondering whether we want to try and strengthen the networks amongst the kind of sectors. Do we want to try and strengthen the networks between mental health trusts? Do we want to try and strengthen the networks between the acute trusts, the specialist trusts, etc.? And that's something we can think about and maybe discuss later on today. I'm going to stop there. Is there anything else you want to know, or anyone?
Yeah, you kind of been reading my mind as you were going. I sort of been ticking off all the questions that are on my list to ask you, and you've already answered most of them. So you work for Imperial, and you've described a huge range of things that you do, and you've also described a day in the life, looking at sort of trying to ruthlessly prioritize. What motivated you to take this career path?
Oh, that's a good question. So I fell into it quite well. I fell into the NHS, I fell into digital, and I fell into analytics and data. I did. I'm a scientist by background, and those careers discussions you have with people at school, way back many decades ago for me now. But I never sat there and said I want to work in the NHS and I want to be a digital and analytics leader. I didn't even know what that was then. But doing science involves data and analytics. I worked on a research study studying the spread of tuberculosis in London. I then went to work for the British Medical Association and specialised there in supporting their digital. It was purely called ICT in those days. Digital hadn't really been a buzzword at that point, but their ICT committee just got the bug around use of digital in healthcare. I then went and did a transformation role in an acute trust in Kings in southeast London. I've worked in Bromley Primary Care Trust. I've worked in Bromley Healthcare. I worked for South London. So most of my jobs have been south of the river. This is actually my first job north of the river. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm doing a bit of a tour of the trusts of London in a way. But yeah, just really, really interested in how people use data to improve patient care. I've got a fundamental, my values and ethics are very much around, there's so much data available now. It's about how we maximize it and have the workforce that can maximize it. Very passionate about that.
I noticed Kamal's got his hand up. Did you want to make a comment or ask a question, Kamal?
Hi, my name's Kamal.
Hi.
I won't go into the intro, but yeah, thanks, Ruth. That was really interesting. I was just wondering if you could give us a little quick summary about the robotic process project that you're working on. That sounds really interesting.
Sure, and we can always bring RPA as a topic because it could touch on analytics, actually. It's not a specifically analytics and data project at the moment, but essentially we've now got bots that can act, where you've got transactions taking place, which so many of our processes in HR, in finance, they're very transactional, they're very repetitive. We have humans doing them. And of course, humans do need annual leave, etc. Actually, you can now get bots to do the same thing, and they don't need annual leave, they don't take sick leave, and they are digital workers, basically. They
can work all night.
Yes, they can.
And on weekends.
Yeah, they can. And the Royal Free is actually a bit of a leader in the NHS in this, and we're learning from them. But we are just in the process of implementing our bots and designing our first processes, which are around maternity referrals, and just automating that. So it sounds simple, but you have to look at the process. You then have to design, make sure the process is good. There's no point in automating a rubbish process. So you get a good process and then you automate it and the bots, off they go. There is an analytics element to it, in that you need to monitor what the bots are doing, but you also need to monitor what efficiencies are coming from it. So we're just actually developing some data sets out of 2 RPA platforms that we've got in the organisation. Does that give you
Right.
enough of a flavour?
That's
Samantha?
brilliant. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. It sounds great.
So final question for you then, Ruth. When did you join AphA and what was your motivation?
So I've been in AphA since 2017, since the London branch launched. And I've been the branch lead since December. So over 6 months now, time flies again. My motivation for joining, so I'd looked at finance colleagues and heard them talk about, their qualifications and their professional body and the HFMA, I think it is, they'd go off to the annual conference and there'd be the awards, and I just always felt a little bit jealous, if I'm honest, and kind of thought, well, why don't we have that for analysts? And I think AphA was the first time I had come across analysts trying to organize themselves and come together and become a professional group. And so I was right behind that. I just felt it was time overdue, really, for us to put ourselves on the same playing field as the financial accountants. Even the clinical coders have had qualifications for years, professional qualifications. And so I'm just delighted that we've now got the same opportunity.
Absolutely. That's great. So thanks for being the guinea pig to show us all what we want from this meeting. That's perfect. And also, I think we're also welcoming Tom O'Doherty to the meeting. So welcome, Tom. If you could put your camera on, if that's possible. Hi. Can I have a volunteer for who wants to go next to introduce themselves?
I can go next just to do it.
Brilliant. Please do, Lisa.
Like,
yeah, tell us, start off, who do you work for? What kind of organisation?
So my name is Lisa Cummins and I work for the Health Economics Unit. I work alongside Julia and Andy, who most of you probably know. I joined the team just in May, so recently enough. I work as a senior health economist. And before that, I worked as a senior analyst in Northeast London CCDs. I worked on kind of population health and financial strategy there. And so at the moment in the Health Economics Unit, I'm kind of working on mainly on economic evaluations and doing some analytics as well. I'm not sure if people know who the Health Economics Unit is, but basically what we do, or kind of overarching aim, is to provide evidence to support better decision making in the NHS, and then we also work with industry and other organisations as well to kind of support evidence generation and so we do kind of analytics, evaluation, economic evaluation. We do pop health as well. I think that's kind of most of what we do. And yeah.
Tell us about a day in the life of your role. What do you find yourself doing most of the time?
So it's kind of a mix, really. Part of it's working with clients to scope new projects or new evaluations and trying to work out, I guess, what it is that they want the evaluation to demonstrate, what it is that the different interventions do and how they work and how they function within the system or pathway. Then working with my team to develop the evaluation framework and then actually carrying out the evaluation as well. So that can be a mix of doing the actual analysis first, report writing, and again working with the clients through that process to make sure what we're doing is what they expect us to be doing and that we're on the right track. Yeah, it's good. I really like working at HEU. I'm not just saying that because Julia's on the call. It's definitely a really supportive team, and even joining the pandemic, everyone's been really welcoming, and it's really good. It's a really good place to work compared to my old job, which was in the CCD, and it was very, very intense. But yeah.
And what motivated you to take this career path?
So I first kind of got into, so my first job in health in the UK was with the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health. So it was a policy role, and I was really interested in kind of, how new ways of, God, I can't speak now, it's Friday. I got really interested in kind of new care pathways and how like the NHS was being structured and how these decisions were being made. And then I got more interested in kind of resource use and how decisions were made. And I then started thinking about a career in health economics. And then I kind of started working in the National Clinical Audit Programmes. And while I was doing that, I did a part-time MSc in health economics and kind of managed to then get experience of doing evaluations and analytics within the NHS. And then I saw the health economics unit had been set up, I think towards the end of last year. And I got really excited when I saw that. So I just reached out to Andy and Wayne, who's the head of the team. I had a conversation with them, and then luckily a job came up a couple of weeks later and I applied, and yeah, so I got it. So here I am.
Congratulations. And tell us about your membership of AphA. What motivated you to join AphA?
When I was doing my dissertation, that was at Nuffield, and the newsletter was sent around. So I was reading that, and I hadn't even heard at that point that there had been any analyst networks, and I just got really interested in what it was. And then I think it was last year around the time when the strategy unit were doing the 2-week analytics thingy. And I think there was some AphA stuff again at that, and I think I joined around that point. Around, I think it was around last year. Got inspired to join the growing network of analysts.
And what are your hopes for the future in your role or with AphA?
In my role, to continue, I guess, to develop and grow. One of my definite passions is kind of working on evaluations within the NHS. So I feel like I'm doing that now. So maybe if I can build skills and help even new team members and new people who come on board and work with us to kind of develop those skills and develop that passion as well. I'd like to do that. And then I'd like to get more involved with AphA and I guess the wider NHS analytics network, because I think it's really important that we work together and support one another.
Absolutely. I guess we're probably at that stage, Ruth and Catherine, where we're trying to figure out how members can join in and support. So I'm sure there'd be some useful conversations to have after this meeting.
Yep.
That's great. That's brilliant. Any questions for Lisa? And if not, would someone else like to volunteer to talk? Ruth.
Thanks. So I'm fascinated by population health as a concept, but sitting in an acute trust, we don't do a lot actually in that space. And I'm just wondering, is it always strikes me as the more exciting edge of analytics and quite interesting. And I just wondered if you find it like that, and what's the kind of really interesting stuff you might have done in that space recently?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I think that it's really important to take a population health kind of perspective around developing services, I guess, and improving health. In HEU, I don't directly work on the top health projects, but in North East London, I did lots of work around health inequalities, particularly around looking at the population as a whole and identifying who was being vaccinated and who was unvaccinated. So did kind of population level stuff like that. And also equity audits of people with long-term conditions to identify kind of who was receiving the care they should be receiving and who wasn't, and identifying kind of where those people were living and working then alongside some colleagues from the borough who are developing strategies to support people from like particular ethnic backgrounds or different areas to kind of improve kind of their knowledge of their condition and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely an interesting area and an important area, I think, to really kind of, if we want to kind of improve the care of people.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Who's going to talk next?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Someone.
I'm happy to talk.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers. Thank you.
So tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you working for at the moment?
Thank you. My name is Catherine Burns. I'm the information manager at Moorfields Eye Hospital. I've been here 11 years as part of the performance information department. So we sit under IT, but obviously my key areas are sort of corporate reporting, statutory returns, finance data, also all the different submissions and regular reporting that goes in. We also split our analyst teams into sort of look after our divisions. As a trust, we've got a main site at City Road and a north and south division. So we've got 31 sites, so it's the best way to support the trust. And I'm responsible for the two satellite divisions. So myself and my team look after the ad hoc requests and sort of actually supporting them and improving their sort of their data capture and their services and monitoring performance. So yeah, so that's roughly what I do and how long
Tell us about a day in the life. What does that look like?
Day in the life can always be different. I think obviously the pre-COVID was probably not as standard as it is now. I think we've sort of been coordinating getting all the sort of the primary, making getting sort of different statutory returns due in, but also making sure with submissions, sort of developing the new data sets for the submissions, but also for waiting lists, all the different that have also been coming in the last few months. Another part of my role is I look at the compliance against national standards. So I'll look at the data sets that we've got, and actually then sort of if any data standards come out, I'll work with the team and with the divisions to ensure we're capturing the right activity and it's accurate. One I think day in the life I think is just one of the more routine things. I think probably is making sure that activities captured correctly. It's I think there's sort of as an eye hospital there's a bit of a well it's it's not it's not really relevant to us. It's getting that message across saying that actually it is, and I think it's having those links across the trust it does help, and it's improved our completeness and accuracy definitely in the since I've been here. I must admit it wasn't great when I started, but we're an established team here. I think most of us have got an average sort of we've been working here on average about 7 or 8 years, so we seem to keep the analysts sort of when once we get a good team together, I think. But yeah, it's obviously a little bit different at the moment with being remote like everybody else. It's sort of juggling that those priorities.
Sounds like you've had a big impact at Moorfields. What's motivated you to take your career in this direction?
Well, started as when I was at university. We did a placement year, and I got a role at Barts Health, or whatever it was pre-called at that time, 20 odd years ago, and so went into Bart's information team as a student analyst. But if I'm honest, it was anything but that. It was a full-on role. You expected to you learned everything, and a really good team. Learned a lot about activity. I must admit, went back to university vowing never to come back in and get a job somewhere else. And even though I loved my placement, I really did, and I'm still in contact with people there. But I thought, no, I've done my bit now. And was very lucky actually. Within about a month of graduating, the then head of information at Newham Healthcare, when they were still separate, actually had heard of me, through the sort of networking at the time, and offered me a position as their senior information analyst to build literally their team up from scratch, which I jumped at. And I was at Newham for 10 years. So 10 years at Newham, 11 years at Moorfields. It's just, having that sustainability. One thing I forgot to mention, I was also managing the coding contracts. We have our clinical coding at Moorfields is done by UCLH, but I'm the point of contact, and because I previously managed the coding team here. And again, that's it feeds in quite nicely with my role as the corporate data lead and finance data with when we were in the PVR world, and obviously in a block contract at the moment. So, yeah.
Tell us a bit about your time with AphA. Why did you join? When did you join? Why did you want to join?
So I joined. I was trying to work that out. It's either I think 2017 or 2018, and my line manager, he had mentioned it. He joined, and he'd sent around the magazine, and I thought, oh, this, it was something that I've been looking for. We haven't. I really, it's quite obvious that there wasn't that networking opportunities to get to know other analysts. We used to have an information managers forum in London years ago, and I really found that quite beneficial. We'd all meet up, have a conversation, and anything that was going, the changes that were going through, or there was that networking base, and you had the contacts in. Oh, I know I need to talk to somebody at this trust. I know who to go to, and vice versa.
So
I think,
important.
I often had the information manager at Whips Cross. They've got an eye unit. They'd be in touch quite a lot with us with their data, but we'd lost that when that sort of stopped. So with AphA, I thought that this was a good opportunity to get back in touch with and sort of the analyst community, but also doing some networking as well, which is why I think this is a really good session today. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you, Tom.
So I'm going to pick someone next to go next. Kamal, you spoke earlier. Would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, that's
Who do you work for?
I was going to
What do you do?
Anyway. My name is Kamal Latif. I'm a performance analyst in the business intelligence department at AphA London NHS Trust. I work Claire's in the meeting as well, working Claire's team, and we're sort of a team of 7 or 8 people. The trust has 2 hospitals. I put together a 3rd one. I've been there 3.5 years. So I'm actually, by training, I'm a chartered management accountant. I used to work in EDF Energy, and that's very analytical. And I always preferred the analytical work to the accounting. I had to do, a little bit, obviously, the financial reporting, but that wasn't that interesting doing the statutory reports. What was interesting is basically working out how an organisation works, what's driving it, and just understanding the ins and outs. So I always liked analysis. I did work for Nuffield Hospitals in 2006 for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed that. And I always, a lot of people in the family worked in the NHS. My mum used to work in King's Hospital back in the day doing data input, before data warehouses and all the tech we have now. So I always wanted to get into the NHS, and was lucky enough to get a role in Epsom. It's been 3.5 years.
And so tell me a bit about the day in the life in your role. What do you do?
Well, I do. We do ad hoc requests, regular reports. So the regular report that I do the most is the A&E ED SITREP, and so we do that, try and get it submitted by 11. And then when I started 3 years ago, that was very manual, literally tapping in numbers. It used to take, I think, a couple of hours. And then also the process behind it was using Access databases and Excel. It would crash quite a lot. So I had a really interesting project, which was basically automating. So that was good fun, and I did that. Now the macros that basically produce all the data that we submit, and sometimes it take 2 hours on Tuesday when our networks are slow. So you've got to get things submitted by 11, and you're still waiting for data to come in, and everybody's chasing you. So that project, I think in 3 years, I really developed my SQL skills and to automate it. And now it takes 5 minutes to run this sort of automated process from 2 hours. So that's really good. But yeah, so regular tasks. We've got SITREP, RTT, and then the ad hocs. And there are a lot of projects that we're working on. We're trying to get licenses for Power BI. We've been trying for a while because we really want to, start producing value-added dashboards and things that we can go to clinicians and actually tell them this is what's happening, and to be proactive rather than reactive. We're trying, I think, to get to that stage, but it's not always easy, but it's exciting.
Yeah, you make it sound really interesting and fun, and I recognise a lot of what you're talking about in terms of the challenges. In particular, I remember when I used to work on that sort of thing, there used to be real time pressure, like very serious time pressure, and if things didn't go well, it could be quite stressful. Is it like that at all, or?
Yeah, I think it is. It's in a weird way. It depends. With COVID, I've actually found it's been less kind of stressful. I think we've had a lot of IT issues and network issues and everything, so I think expectations have changed. It also depends on obviously your executives, and we had a chief operating officer before who was very, very numbers based. So you would send something, and he'd notice everything, right? So he'd come back and he'd say, it's sort of 5 to 11. He'd want to submit something nationally, and he'd say, this looks wrong. I won't agree until you do that. And that used to be quite so trying to work out why a number has changed in 5 minutes. We didn't really have the sort of technology. But those kind of questions are what drive improvement. So, but it does depend. But yeah, we still do get that again.
It is tough, isn't it? When you're trying to balance timeliness and accuracy, it can be a real challenge. So tell us a bit about AphA. When did you join AphA and why?
Just recently, actually. I think our department head sent around all the information, and I find it interesting because I'm still a member of SEMA. I still get the magazine. I don't always read all of it, but I think, and I get all the emails, and like everybody else has mentioned, previous to me, there is value in networking, in sharing knowledge, and all of these things. And as analysts, there isn't a sort of professional qualification, but there's also there isn't that structure. With chartered accountancy, all the different types, there is that structure. There are loads of meetings, there's loads of information, articles. So I think it is useful to knowledge share, network, things like this. So hopefully,
it's interesting. You're sort of bringing to life the contrast between the world of finance and the world of informatics. Big difference, isn't it? Great, thank you very much, Kamal. So sticking with Epsom and St Helier, let's go to Claire Elkin. Tell us a bit about what you do, Claire.
So I am a business analysis manager at Epsom and St Helier Hospital. So Kamal's on the call. I've also noticed Aparna has joined, and Ramiko, I think, as well, who's my boss. So I've worked here, I think, for 5 years now in sort of a similar role. And before that, I worked at Kingston Hospital. I was there for 10 years. And before that, I worked at the Department of Health. So that's where my interest in health analytics started. And in that role, it was quite an interesting role. It kind of encouraged to move different departments within the Department regularly. So I worked on waiting lists and target when that was first coming in. So yeah, it was a really interesting job. But what struck me there was it was all very kind of high level, and you didn't really see a lot of progress very quickly because you were right at the top. So I decided to try and get a job in a hospital trust to see what things were actually like at the bottom of the chain. And that was really interesting. So yeah, I got a job at Kingston doing a similar role to what I'm doing now. But yeah, that's where my career path has gone.
Great. What's a day in the life like in your role?
It very varied. And like Kamal said, you know, on a day-to-day basis, it changes quite a bit. Essentially, I suppose our job is that all the services in the hospital have the information job, and as Ruth alluded to, the priorities for that can change from one thing to another. Something else that's last year or so, we've taken on 2 communities as well. So I'm now leading a political team for one of those services, and that's meant kind of learning a whole new data set, and that the data flows of community information are not as established, I would say, as the acute side. So that's kind of been quite an interesting journey to start on, to try and get that data set using. And then recently we've had some discussions about population health, AphA London as a whole. So I can see community and acute sides of information will be really useful in those kind of conversations. So that's going to be an interesting, hopefully another part of the job that will start off soon, hopefully.
Sounds really interesting. Before I bring Ruth in, I had a question about how you've been discovering the data flows for community health. What sort of activities do you do to discover that?
So, sorry, I don't know whether I understood your question. You mean how have I?
So you were saying that the data flows and the kind of what the data means within community is new to you, and it's not something that is perhaps something that your colleagues at the trust know much about. So how do you go about developing your knowledge of that and building that?
So I was lucky that the community services that came across had analysts that came with them. So it's okay. Mainly been sort of trying to understand the systems through them. But yeah, a steep learning curve.
Absolutely. Great. So you had someone's brains to pick.
Yeah.
Ruth, what was your question or comment?
Hi, Claire. I'm fascinated that you worked at the Department of Health and now work in local NHS organisations. Which do you prefer, and do you feel closer to the patients working in the local NHS? Because something I just try and maintain is that although I'm not seeing patients every day, it's good to feel connected to patient care, and I just wondered whether you feel more connected to patient care in the job you do currently.
A part of the decision that I made at the time was that it just felt that I was too far away from actually sort of action and what was going on, and although it was incredibly interesting and a lovely place to work at the Department of Health, it kind of didn't quite fulfill me as a person wanting to feel like I was actually making change. So yeah, that was kind of the reasoning for moving across. And like I say, they are very different organisations to work in, but I think I do prefer working at the acute side, although I did enjoy both.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about when you joined AphA and why.
So like Kamal, I've only recently joined AphA, and that was mainly through Rumika, who's on the call here, who gave us information about AphA. I would probably say I'm not naturally gifted at networking, so Rumika likes to give me a push every now and again to make sure that I am. So yeah, I think that this is a really great forum, and I think from COVID times and us using more virtual networks, I've found that a little bit easier actually than turning up at big conferences and just feeling like I don't know who to talk to. So I do find it a bit easier networking in this manner. So yeah, I'm hoping to gain a lot from it. Thank you.
There's certainly a lot of potential with AphA to meet people in this field. So that's great. Thank you very much. Who would like to go next? And for those who don't have their camera on, please would you put your camera on so that we can all put a face to a name? Any offers of going next?
I
If
can
not,
go next.
I'm good. Great. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my nickname, which is going to save a lot of people time and effort, is Zuzu. That pretty much saved the world a lot of time. So I work as a business intelligence consultant for a company called Catalyst. So we're not the NHS, but I do a lot of work for the NHS as an external consultant. For example, do a lot of work with NHS England and improvement around people plan. And also I've actually recently done work for Moorfields Eye Hospital, so Catherine's colleagues as well, and Bart's Trust, and in my company have done a lot of work for Imperial as well. So we do a lot of work for NHS organizations. So why I went into this career. So I actually graduated from Imperial College in health management. And then the reason I started my career is because I have passion for both data and health. And yeah, just my career, it really brings these two together. I joined AphA in May 21, 3 months ago, I think. But I actually wanted to join last year, but I just got I thought it was only NHS people, so so I didn't apply, and I just got busy, and I was lazy to email someone at AphA to ask that if I can join or not. But yeah, I got some time, so I sent them an email, and they told me, yeah, you can join. There's no issues. So why I joined is because, just like most people, it's really getting like-minded people who have a passion for data analysis and analytics and health. So yeah, I think that's really the main reason I'm here. For the future, I want to do the professional registration in AphA, and I've also looked at the mentorship as well. So it's a very interesting thing. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Zuzu, and you're very welcome in AphA. How have you found it sort of meeting people from the NHS? As a non-NHS person, how do you find that?
It's very, very interesting. So I think most people in the NHS are just amazing, and yeah, I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot of people, and just a lot of ideas that I've never heard before. So everyone is doing something different. So yeah, I think it's just very, very informative, and I think AphA is, from what I've seen, is probably the biggest kind of place to get people like us together. I haven't seen another similar organization that just brings everyone together that have passion for data and NHS. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, really important. I think it's important to have people outside of the NHS bringing new ideas in. Sometimes within the NHS, I've witnessed a kind of bubble forming where the ideas from outside the bubble can't get in. And so having people like you working, do you work with people outside of the NHS as well? Do you have
yes, so very good point. So I work with clients in all industries, so finance, merchants, pretty much every other industry, even police. I was just doing data literacy for police, policing here in the UK as well. So so when I work with NHS clients, I always bring these new ideas there. So everything I see in other clients doing, I always bring it to the NHS as well. So and that's really helpful, more than you think. It's a big thing.
before I go
Not
to Maya.
stealing ideas, but it's just similar concept, of course.
No,
There's no
Yeah.
data. I'm very, very good with data sharing, obviously, but it's just
Yeah.
similar concepts. It's very important.
are there any trends that you've spotted within the NHS? Perhaps things that could benefit from outside, looking outside.
Yes. So I think the biggest thing I notice is obviously the speed of change in the NHS is slower than what. I mean, a lot of people in the NHS even want to go at a faster pace, but it's just you're restricted by so many things that you can't, regardless of what position you're in, you're still restricted by just so many things to move forward. And yeah, it's just a fact. I don't think you can do a lot about it, but yeah, I think that's one thing.
I saw a lot of heads nodding when you made that comment.
Yeah,
There's agreement.
agility. Yeah.
Mayowa, did you want to come in and
Yeah.
ask a question?
Yeah, just a quick question for Zuzu. So what does Catalyst do? Because I've heard that name before.
We are a technology consultant, a business intelligence consulting company. So
Okay.
and we're the biggest actually business intelligence consultancy that do work for the NHS. So we have I don't know, over 100 NHS organizations with us. So we do a lot with the NHS and pretty much everything you think about. So
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll be interested to know a little bit more about that. Thanks.
And Mayowa, while you've got your hand up, would you like to go next? Thank you very much, Zuzu. Really interesting.
I was hoping we'll run out of time so I don't have to talk, but since you picked me, okay. So I'm popularly known, or my nickname is Mayo, so that's easier. I'm head of information and data warehouse at Chelsea and Westminster NHS Trust. I'm new there. I joined them in December, very odd time, I'll say. So just about a little over 7 months now. Before then, I worked at Royal Brampton, where I led clinical informatics, BI, not clinical coding, integration, and some other stuff. And then I worked at London Northwest, where I led the BI team at London Northwest. And before that, before NHS, I was in consultancy for many years. So I did a lot of IT consultancy. That's about the AphA. So I joined AphA. I heard about AphA about 2 years ago from someone that worked on the project with us at Royal Brampton. And someone from Dr. Foster's just mentioned it, that there's actually a group there that I could, join, but I didn't take it serious then. But recently, Alex Brown, my manager, registered the whole department with AphA, and so we're still exploring the benefits. So I think we just joined about 2 months ago now. So I would have a lot to say about what I've gained from AphA at the moment. Yeah, that's about it from me. Any questions?
Great. Yeah. In terms of AphA, you're just talking about there. What you haven't had much chance to
No.
benefit. But what are your hopes for the future?
Yeah. So I'm used to having user groups and doing a lot of collaboration across softwares, and I'm hoping that that's the kind of thing we could achieve with AphA. I'm hoping that the teams I lead we can learn from each other through AphA. Okay. Aside collaborating with the Imperial colleagues across many projects, what will I pick up? It's a long list of work that we do.
What are you most excited about?
It's hard to pick a specific one. I'll probably just mention a few. So there is a project that is related to the one Lisa mentioned earlier, where we're studying health inequalities across COVID treatments. We have several other projects studying mental health referrals, and a number of other projects like that, which can't come to my mind, because you put me on the spot there. But but it's a whole long list that we have. Nothing comes to my mind straight away. Sorry, yeah, like I can't pick out a specific one I'm excited with, and that's because yeah, thanks.
Hopefully Ruth's question will be a bit easier. Sorry about that.
I just wondered how it felt starting a new job in the middle of the pandemic. I think anyone who's done that's incredibly brave. So well done. But how did it feel for you?
It was good. Well, so I started on the 14th of December, I remember. I never went to the office until sometime in February, I think. And I think the guys were just nice with the way we collaborated via Teams, Zoom, and so on. We were able to do all the initial meetings, introductions without having to go in. I did my inductions via, remotely as well. So I think it was okay. And then the first few weeks, I was just doing trainings and learning new stuff. So I didn't get burdened with the emails and the main task for a while. So that helped. But yeah, I survived it.
And can I just say it's lovely to meet you, albeit virtually, Mail, because I know we've exchanged emails. So it's nice to meet you.
Cheers. Yeah, same here.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayo. Good to meet you. Right, Heather put her camera on. Would you like to go next, Heather?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Humphreys, and I am a health economist and also kind of an analyst at the Health Economics Unit. I work with Lisa and Julia, who are also on the call. And I work on the same kinds of projects that Lisa already kind of described. But my background is kind of a little bit all over the place. So I would say that I still feel new to the NHS. I did university in the US, and then I came over here and continued to do that. In the US, I did biochemistry and economics. And then halfway through med school, I decided I really missed economics. And so I came over here and did public health. And now I'm doing another master's in health economics at LSE at the moment, which is really fun. And I submitted my first paper this week. So still kind of a little tired and like winding down from the excitement of that. And the only job I've had post uni has been working with Julia. So my experience is, I guess, a little bit more limited than everyone else here who has significantly more than me.
Well, congratulations on submitting your paper. What's kind of motivated you to get into economics?
I don't know. It kind of snuck up on me. It just was my favorite. So since I was 5, I told everyone I'm going to be a doctor, and I was very much on that path. And then one week I was just talking with my professors in the anatomy lab, and they were like, "Why are you doing this? You seem a lot more interested in the health economic aspects of the drugs than on how they actually function." And I was like, light bulb, you are right. And anyway, 6 months later, I was in a master's program at Imperial and had moved across the world, it felt like. And yeah, I was like, I'll come back if I want to, and I have not gone back yet. And that was 2016. So don't think I'm going back. I like what I'm doing.
You must be on the right path.
Yeah, I'm much happier.
And what are you working on at the moment?
A couple of projects. I'm kind of redesigning and working on how some dashboards are being presented for use in kind of higher level decision making. I am in the process of kind of transferring from the analytics team more to Lisa's team and doing a bit more of the health economic stuff. And so I kind of am sitting on like this bridge of some of my projects are more economics, some of my projects are more analytics, some of my projects are a little bit more design focused. Kind of enjoy doing a little bit of everything. So none of my days look the same. They're all very different, and I kind of switch rapidly between completely different topics, which, given the history of my academic education, I obviously like to do. So
it's good to have the freedom to do that. That's great. Tell us a bit about what you think about AphA and how that could develop in the future. What would you like to see happen?
Well, I joined AphA because of Julia. She told me about it. And I think that the discussions I've had like since joining AphA, especially with like other members around actually working out a career path, is kind of really interesting. I think that the ability to kind of see how other people structured where they were going is really useful, because I think it's kind of obvious that I did not have a structure, and I've kind of just been winging it for 5 years now. And because this wasn't like the original dream, like the original dream like had a path, right? Like I did my undergrad degree and then I was doing medical school and like I had to do volunteering and I was doing the shadowing and like there's a very set process to becoming a doctor. And then when I jumped into the world of analytics, I was like, there is no structure here. I have no idea what I'm doing and I could go anywhere. And that's really exciting and that's really fun. But that also can, I think, be kind of like overwhelming of kind of, you know, doing your PDP and telling your manager where you want to be in 5 years and that kind of stuff. So I think kind of seeing the opportunities that are available is really useful to somebody like me who's maybe didn't come here with like a plan, or maybe did and then finds a cooler plan like I did. So.
Yeah, and I don't think you're alone there. I think a lot of people have had that experience. I remember when I started in mental health back in 2005, I think, and it just felt like complete greenfield, like no one had built anything before. It was kind of just free range, really. And I think a lot of people have had that experience. So hopefully AphA will help us a bit with some structure, because we do need a bit of structure. Zuzu, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question out of interest. What was the title of the paper that you submitted?
This week was for my resource allocation class. So it was the final exam and we had to do a critical appraisal of a publication that was looking at whether it was cost effective to implement an opt-out testing program for hepatitis C and hepatitis B testing in ED settings in the UK, which is like the world's longest title and very specific. But yeah, it was basically, I was critically reviewing the methodology that they'd used in a cost effectiveness study.
Okay, yeah. Very, very interesting.
The title is like 3 lines long. It's really bad, but that's like the official format that the titles have to be in, you know? So, yeah. Thanks
very much, Heather. Thanks for sharing. So next, can I invite Rumiko to tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, who you work for?
Hi there. I'm Assistant Director of Business Intelligence at Epsom St Helier Hospital. Hi, everyone. So who's there? I see that some of my team members are there. Hi, Catherine. It's been a while. So we are a trust in South London, bordering with Surrey. And so we, as Claire has mentioned, we cover acute, and we've been managing community sides as well, both on the Sutton side and the Surrey downside. We have we manage both business analytics, informatics. We also have data quality, data warehouse, and yeah, that's what we do. So I was a bit late on this call, so I missed the first half an hour. So my understanding is talking about our career path. Is that what it is?
So it's basically just to get to know each other a bit. So
Right.
I've got a few prompt questions just to get people talking, but we're just interested to know, you've told us a bit about the trust and what sort of things you do. Tell us a bit about a day in the life of being the Director of Business Intelligence.
It's sorry, the office is a bit loud at the moment. We share the office with IT. It's a bit noisy bunch. It's a day in the office. For me, it's there's no typical day. It depends on what gets thrown to you. So yeah, it's quite dynamic, I'd say. The last year and a half has been quite different, obviously, for many of us. And the last couple months has been another, story, with all the politics going on. But yeah, I'm sure you would be aware of that as well. Like just now, I was late on this call because there was our chief executive's leaving. Today's his last day, and there was a goodbye session for the senior members. And what's going to happen in the next coming weeks is also quite exciting times to see. I love change, so there's always ups and downs. We just have to make sure that we manage those. We are increasingly working closer with our colleagues in the patch, which is South West London, and particularly for us with St George's Hospital. We have a shared chair and a couple of non-execs are also shared as well. And with what's going on in London and elsewhere, I think there's a real good chance that we'll be working more closely with the George's team. Yeah. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. In terms of AphA, I've known about this for a good while. I think even when I was at Moorfields, which is like 8 years ago, wasn't it, Catherine? Yeah, it's a long time now. Time flies. But at that stage, it was not as developed as it is now. And I thought, why pay for this? Because it was a paid subscription. And although it is not that much, any, payments would incur some kind of a incentive. So at that point, I wasn't interested at all. But in the last couple of years, I've been speaking a lot with Steve, who's now in Southeast London, but Stephen Piper was leading at the time, and so I thought, yeah, maybe we should. But because there's lots of networking platforms, and there's so many of those at the moment, particularly now that we're online, it's so easy to set that up and start having, sessions like this. I was pretty sure that my team wouldn't come onto that. So, so I sort of forced you all, didn't I? So I signed the whole team up onto AphA. So we're all here since, I think, late March, early April, we've been here. And it's glad to see some of you here on as well. So looking forward to how this develops in the future. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, I had the same. I did the same in my trust. I put forward all my team members to join AphA. And you were mentioning that, so it's good that you showed that leadership to kind of try and make the team join in with the broader analyst group. That's fantastic. You were saying that when a few years ago you didn't see the reason to spend that money on the membership. What's changed? What do you see has changed with AphA, and where would you hope to see things change further?
I suppose AphA has progressed a little bit since then. There's more awareness and links with other networks as well. And I have seen what's going on in the north of England, in the Midlands and stuff. Their AphA conference is quite impressive, and I know that London, we do need to do a little bit more, but I think we can tap into other teams as well. I know for a fact that in Southwest London, LCSU has a really good team there, but none of them are on this. So once we start working on the population health work, which is kicking off, which has kicked off in Southwest London this week, it's actually something that we can get those on board and have a more active shared session, best practice sharing and all that stuff. Yeah, I think that there's lots that we can share and look to some synergy amongst the teams. Yeah.
Great. Sounds like we've got some good ideas. Zuzu, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I just had a question. You mentioned the shared leadership, right, and kind of work together. Is that linked to the ICS, like the Southwest London ICS, by any chance, or was that?
It is very strongly led by that.
Okay,
movement.
so it's
yes.
Okay, so it's recent due to the ICS, right?
Sorry.
It's recent. It's a recent thing. Okay.
Recent in the sense that it was happening, and but it's in the last 2 years. I think it was from pre-pandemic.
Okay.
But it's just kind of surfaced more, in a transparent way. Yeah.
Okay. Super. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Rumiko. Really interesting to hear from you. We've got a few people with their cameras off, and we've done everybody with the cameras on. So is there anyone from the no camera group who would like to introduce themselves? Is anyone in the no camera group on the call?
We've got shy people. That's okay. I don't know, Pavi, Laurel, or Pavi, you look like you want to come in.
I don't know, you might pick on me, Ruth. Apologies for not having my camera on. I have had a wisdom tooth extraction, so I'm puffy in the cheek. Okay. That is the reason why. So I am Pavi Jayarathnam. I'm currently on a secondment with the Northwest London ICS, leading on a project, which I'll touch on in a bit. But previously, so I've come from Imperial, where I was a business intelligence business partner for the surgery, cancer and cardiovascular division there, and did that role for a few years. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the project itself. So I've recently started as a project lead to try and harmonise and unify operation tracking lists across the 4 acute trusts within the ICS. And as you can imagine, that has its difficulties and challenges in terms of consistency of data, different systems flowing around the trusts, and completeness as well. So that's the kind of aim of the project, to try and bring some of those data sets together and develop an operational tool that will allow us to look at our elective pathways. And prior to that, as I said, I was within Imperial, and I know I can see a few colleagues here from Imperial, which is great. And my capacity there was very much leading a team of analysts that were responsible for reporting on various things like RTT, council jobs, cancer, some community services, but also providing the key decision makers and others within the division with information and business intelligence to kind of make those decisions. And lots of fun around activity planning and all that stuff as well. And I joined AphA a few years ago now. I think so. The first conference I went to was in Bristol in 2017. Ruth has been very good at championing AphA over all these years, and became a fully fledged, more involved member probably over the last couple of years, joining it to network, get some ideas and collaboration. The Futures website has been really helpful as well, so kind of engaging in that. So yeah, I think that's it.
Great. You mentioned that you work for North West London ICS, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't catch what your job title is there.
It's project lead. It's a
Project lead.
new role, but yeah, project.
Okay, sounds like you're a bit of an expert on waiting lists. What you were saying.
Yeah. Lots to learn, I'm sure, but yes.
Always lots to learn in that field. I know personally I've been finding that. What's kind of motivated you to get into waiting lists as a career?
I don't think so. I actually so I did my studies in psychology and research. I really wanted to get into research, in all honesty, and then started a temp role as a ward clerk at Imperial, and then data entry temp job within information, as it was called at the time, at Imperial. And I think just fell in love with the data and healthcare and the impact that data can have. So that was really it. And I had some really good coaches around me as well, in terms of really empowering me, letting me kind of crack on, develop new skills. And so did leave Imperial, and then went around and then came back to Imperial, and stayed there for 7 years. And actually it's at that point that kind of got more involved in things around RTT and waiting lists. So prior to that, I was at Chelsea and Westminster, and was more around the nursing care quality, click view development and analysis, rather than waiting lists. So it was a move, but done well so far through it and learning lots. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
It's a really common theme, isn't it? People I know who work in this field started off doing something different. Personally, I did a biology degree, and there was a stats element to that, but nothing really guiding me in this direction. And you end up kind of hopping from role to another, finding something more and more interesting. I think that's such a common theme with this field. Zuzu, you've got a question.
Yeah, I have a lot. So it's a very, very interesting project you're working on. I want to ask a lot of questions, but if you could just briefly say, what's the main objective of that project? Like, what are you essentially trying to achieve, and also what technologies are you using to achieve this?
So it's to develop a patient pathway management tool for elective pathways across the ICS, the acute trust within the ICS, which would then mean greater visibility of all those pathways and the patients across the sector, but also kind of so that GPs and others have visibility of the patients as well and where they are. The first stage of the project is very much a baselining exercise to understand what needs to be done and develop a paper around recommendations. So I think the technologies aspect of it is, I probably can't preempt that right now, but we'll be doing that exercise and kind of trying to find out what's best to be used.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Pavi, for telling us about what you do and where you're headed with the things. Let's see if we can squeeze some more in. We've got another 10 minutes or so left. Can I vet Tom O'Doherty, are you on the call?
Cool. Can you see my camera? I did have it on.
There you are. Hello.
Hi all.
Welcome to the camera group.
Camera on group. I have had it on for a little while.
Tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you working for?
Okay, well, I work at Imperial College Healthcare NHS Trust in the data warehouse team. In fact, I've just celebrated my 4-year anniversary in the role. And I'm one of the youngest members of the team. not in terms of age, but in terms of length of service. So it's a hugely varied role. No 2 days are ever the same. I know other people have said that, but it really does feel that way. I always start every day with a plan of what I intend to work on and achieve at the outset. And generally that doesn't survive the first 10 minutes contact with the reality. I suppose I'm sort of semi-distanced now from analysts and reporting, but of course my area of expertise is in data provisioning. So analysts rely on the data we provide in order to do their jobs. And part of my role is about day-to-day maintenance, DBA type activities, and making sure the data is available to analysts. And of course, if anything goes wrong in that regard, analysts are beating a path to my door, and generally something needs to be fixed, and fixed even before they're aware it's a problem, because people are on their backs for issues to be resolved. So that's part of my role. Another part is about development work, you know, identifying what tables, etc., may need to be built to support analyst reporting. And quite a large part of my role is about testing of new solutions and development to make sure they're fit for purpose from a reporting perspective. So, for example, we've just finished testing the ECDS 6.2.3 build, and again made sure that was fit for purpose. And of course, by the time it gets to us from the perspective of reporting testing, all the slack's generally gone out of a development. So you're constantly working under pressure and to short timescales and deadlines to get things achieved. That in itself doesn't worry me. I mean, I'm used to working under pressure. Generally, I'm quite resilient. It is a supportive team that I work for, so you know, we help each other out. I mean, in terms of workload, I think generally speaking, it was busier when I joined Imperial. It's got busier since. We have regular sessions at the moment where we look at development priorities specifically for the data warehouse team. And I think at the moment we're up to over 70 developments that we're working on. So, you know, there's a huge amount going on. And there's sort of lots of pressure to get things done. Going back to how I got into the role I'm doing now, I never set out with a specific ambition to be an NHS data analyst or indeed to work in a data warehouse environment. In fact, I started life working in human resource management even before the term human resource became popular. And in fact, I spent 10 years working in local authorities rather than NHS. So I guess my perspective of things isn't necessarily NHS centric. It's looking at perhaps alternative ways of thinking about things. The way I got into analytics work was at one stage in my career, I assumed responsibility as a customer project manager for the development and implementation of a computerized human resource information system, and really got into the whole realm of analytics through that basis. To the point where I was probably seen at one point as being neither part of human resources, because you know he does something with data, and neither as part of an IT team because, well, you know, he's only really playing with systems and data. So I guess it was that sort of led me to jumping ship from human resource management into a broader analytics type role. And I did that gradually. So I worked for a body that was called the NHS Workforce Review Team before that disappeared and got subsumed. And in fact, as an aside, most of the NHS organisations I've ever worked for has disappeared as part of one restructuring or another. So I spent a bit of time working on the employee staff record implementation, both in the central project team and as a general project manager taking trust through to implementation. And that was a really exciting time. And then I moved into a role working for a PCT, Surrey PCT, moved on from there to a small community services provider, which wasn't actually part of NHS, it had been spun out. But that was a really interesting organisation to work for, relatively small, less than 1,000 staff. And I was working as a lead analyst and in touch with board directors, service managers. So really felt connected with services that are being provided to patients. And that was one of the things I found quite difficult to adjust to when I joined Imperial, because that's obviously one of the largest organisations in the country. And it's really quite difficult to keep in contact with anyone that directly provides services to patients. Having said that, part of my role is to attend the organisation's change board each week. And I do get quite a lot of contact now, both with other senior staff that work in IT, the transformation team, but also with people that are bringing forward requests for change. So that sort of provides me with some sort of context to the work I'm doing. I suppose I've become increasingly conscious over the past year or so, particularly, that the landscape is changing. We're moving much more closely towards working in collaboration. So we share a electronic patient record with Chelsea and Westminster, and are soon to have London, North West and the Hillingdon hospitals joining that. And I think that in itself is going to lead to increased collaboration on the part of analysts and those that work in data warehouse teams. And I suspect we will be working much more closely together. I've followed AphA off and on for the past 2 or 3 years. Never quite been motivated enough to join up. I mentioned that I did start my career in human resources, and the NHS used to have a very well-developed personnel management group. And in fact, I've been along to 2 or 3 of their annual conferences. Sometimes a bit difficult to remember exactly what went on there, but I think really AphA does provide an opportunity for developing networks, sharing good practice, learning from other people. I do think there is a bit of a tendency in the NHS to work in isolated pockets, and I do think we need to try and break that down. And I think at that point I've probably said enough about myself, and happy to answer questions if there are any.
Thanks very much, Tom. It's good to have everything that you do laid out so clearly, and I'm sure people who share interest with you will be in touch outside of this meeting, I hope. We've got 4 minutes left, so we've probably got time for one last quick go from either Julia, who else have we got? Aparna, or Laurel.
I don't mind going next. I'm Laurel.
You can't see you. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
There you are.
And I've disappeared again. I'm Laurel Ramsey. I work at Imperial College with used to be Pavi, Tom and Ruth. I've been in the department for 10 years now, and I've had 4 different roles within the department. I started off in the NHS 16 years ago now. I started off in occupational health and moved to endoscopy as an admin manager. And it was there that I first encountered the business information team. And I was just so intrigued with everything that they were doing. As I used to be part of the RTT for the diagnostic side of it, because it was an endoscopy. And I used to keep on troubling Wayne and asking him a whole lot of questions about BI and what it was that they did and stuff. And when the opportunity came and BI was doing a big restructure 11 years ago, I applied for a post. I wasn't successful, and then a couple of months later, I was offered a secondment to start on a sequence project, and that secondment didn't end, and Ruth made me permanent. And I don't have an analytics background. Everything that I have, I've learned on the job over the years, and I've been able to progress within the team. And like Pavi mentioned, in 2017, we attended the AphA conference in Bristol. And it was mentioned there how they were trying to start an accreditation for analysts. And I think that has always been something that I've wanted, seeing as I don't have any other accreditations, and everything that I've learned in the NHS has been on the job. And I've always thought that was a good idea to have something where you are valued and accredited for your knowledge and skills. I am currently doing clinical analytics, which is a newish role that's been since 2017, where we liaise a lot with the clinicians and provide more clinical data than we used to previously. So a normal day would be a lot of testing of new tables that Tom and the team would have created, and liaising with clinicians to create a ClickSense app so that they can have the data easily at hand. That was a very quick roundout.
Great, thank you, Laura, for being so brief. We have run out of time in the meeting, and I'm sure with today's way of working, people have got another meeting to go straight to, even though it's Friday afternoon. So apologies for cutting it short, but we'll probably wrap up there. So thank you everybody who's communicated, given to the group. It's been fantastic to hear from you all, and hopefully you all know a bit more about each other now, and hopefully you'll be in touch with each other if there are shared interests, if you want to pick people's brains. That's the whole point of this. So thank you everybody, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a lovely weekend.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.